If they cast a live-action Kaido for One Piece, they could consider this Jason Momoa's audition. It's day 129 of 365. Today's movie, Conan the Barbarian 3D. You don't need 3D glasses to see how great my film club is. Discover early access to these videos, plus exclusive vodcasts and more at patreon.com/ticketstubmovieclub. Directed by Marcus Nispel, who is a 4-time remake director. He also directed the Friday the 13th remake, as well as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake in 2003. It stars Jason Momoa, Stephen Lang, and Rose McGowan, and of course I saw this one in 3D. I saw almost every movie possible in 3D this year. Even in 2011, the cult following for Conan was strong. The books and comics, as well as the movies, because of Arnold Schwarzenegger, had brought in just a large sword and sorcery fantasy crowd, so the idea of doing another one, great idea. What we didn't know was that this was the beginning of the age of remakes, and not every remake is created equal. Some of them are excellent and worth checking out, and others are just bland cash grabs to keep IP within the hands of its mother company. This movie kind of falls more towards the middle, but the most shocking thing about this is the fact that Jason Momoa is here. He's going to be launching his debut in Game of Thrones as our favorite Dothraki warrior, and I actually knew him from Stargate Atlantis. Shout out to other Stargate Atlantis fans out there. For me, that casting as well as this remake was enough to get my ass into theaters. I wanted this to be good, I promise. Revisiting in 2025, I can see what they were going for. When I say this one kind of lands in the middle of like soulless cash grab and like genuinely trying to be a good remake, I think it's not quite threading that needle as well as it could have, but there is a lot of like really cool stuff in here, and I think the issues are more on the filmmaking side than anything. Like, the love for the Schwarzenegger films is obvious here, but those are epic fantasies. They're sweeping like Lawrence of Arabia. This movie opts for the more Bourne the Barbarian style by making everything medium to close shots and using quick editing, and it doesn't feel big and epic for the kinds of things that they're trying to tell us are big and epic about it. I'm not here to poo-poo on anyone's parade, though. If this is one that you like, I definitely found some things in it that I like, so let's talk about the 3 things that I at least liked about Conan the Barbarian. The first thing that I really dig about this movie is you can tell the source material is loved by these filmmakers. As a remake director, Nispel is somebody that really loves these movies to accept these jobs to go remake them. Reinterpreting material is not a bad thing either. I'm not anti-remake by any stretch of the imagination. When you can see the love for an older series on display in a remake, that's where you'll really grab me. When I say soulless remake, usually I'm talking about something that has no intention of giving homage or worship to the original source material and instead wants to reinvent entirely, and we never have to reinvent the wheel, right? Like, this isn't totally necessary. This movie, while I'm not a big fan of the like cinematography and editing choices, I am a big fan of like the content of the movie. As a genre, sword and sorcery is very simple machismo. We don't need to dress this up to be anything more than what it is. It's about warriors and magic. It's about masculinity and femininity. It's like taking everything about the world and stripping it down to its basest things. The movie opens with that too. Hot and cold, ice and fire. Like, it's very clear about the binary of the world that it's presenting, and so I enjoy that. There's little tasty bits in the movie. For instance, when someone gets decapitated and then his eyes pop open, that's the exact kind of stuff that sticks in your head when you watch these movies in the 80s. I wish more of it had been practical, or that the practicals had been presented in that more like less than perfect way that they seem in the 80s and 90s, but I do still really like the idea of like paying homage by keeping in all the juicy stuff from R-rated movies of the past. Speaking of R ratings, the second thing that I really dig about this movie is that it's not PG-13. Now, when I talk about the remake era that was really taking off during this time, this was an issue, man. They would take these R-rated series and then water them down to PG-13 to try to get more butts in seats. And I really respect when someone chooses not to do that. This is a violent movie. I mentioned a beheading already, right? And that can happen in a PG-13 movie, but you can't have sex scenes that are very explicit in nature. You can't have bloody head bashings from your villain that look... You can't have all the stuff that makes swords and sorcery work if you're going to be strapped to PG-13. There's an entire torture sequence in this movie set around a character that Conan had removed his nose at the beginning of the movie. They then strap his hands into this archaic torture device to get information out of him before feeding him a key and giving him over to slaves to be pulled apart. It's awesome. This is the kind of stuff that really works. Like, say what you will about the CG use in the backgrounds and maybe some of the like wonkier stuff. I don't know if you've watched the original Conans lately, but they're kind of wonky too. That's like part of the charm, is this like weird trying to figure out how to make this stuff work in camera that came with the first ones. They're big because Arnold was in them. That's why. The filmmaking on display is a lot of like workman stuff. And that's also happening in this movie. I really love and appreciate that you can see that kind of stuff on display. Yeah, the plot and maybe some of the acting isn't great. But again, this is macho swords and sorcery. Do you need it to be like Oscar level to work? I don't. The third and final thing that I love about this movie is that casting. Jason Momoa is perfect. Like I said at the top, I think he could play Kaido in One Piece. That would be so much fun. His casting in Game of Thrones is excellent. Stargate Atlantis as basically a shaved Chewbacca. I love that shit. Momoa is a very versatile actor, and he's charming and funny too. That's the thing that, if I had one complaint about the casting here, is that the script didn't give him enough to be as charming and as leading as he's capable of being. I think this movie would have been remembered a lot better if they would have let him just run with this character and be more Jason than Conan. Like, he's sexy by default. The long hair, muscular look is just how he walks around. He didn't have to put on muscle for this movie. He just looks like that. So if that's already taken care of, if he's basically a living barbarian, then let him be a lead. He's perfectly capable of doing that. And there are moments when it really pops out, where he has those charming little bits that make him so much fun in what I think the vision of this role was. It doesn't pan out entirely for me, if you ask, and this is why I take the most issue with this movie overall. You can check out my score on Letterboxd if you want to know what like numerical score I gave this movie, but I think in general there's just a lot that could have been better here, but nothing that's outright bad. Like, even among Arnie's Conan movies, I don't think they're both as good as each other. So this is a series that has like room to grow, and I'd be happy to see it happen. This is something that I think is just waiting for a really great filmmaker with a vision to come through and make something that homages the epicness of the early ones with the like modern sensibilities in filmmaking to make it feel more now and applicable. There's something to be had here, and I'm excited to see where it heads into the future, because we will get more Conan someday. It has to happen. Bring Momoa back, I say. But what do you think? Where do you land on this remake? Is this one that you can stand, or do you line up with Rotten Tomatoes and the 75% of people who did not enjoy this one? We're gonna go from bloody violent to bloody hilarious and talk about 30 minutes or less next. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow. And others are just bland cash grabs to keep IP in... For me, the original movies and that casting was enough to get my ass in the... Like,